How many of you remember, first off, heavy backpacks and going to a locker all the time? You can give a shout out. You can give a yes. You can give a no. You can unmute. You can give a hand. Yes. How many of you remember, and I'm dating myself, the purple mimeographs that would come off hot off the press and they smelled so good? Like that's such a unique smell. Like you could probably make a candle out of it and sell it today to Gen Xers. We remember that. How many of you remember your first watch that had the calculator on it? Now we have the Apple Watches, and I've got to remind students, take off your Apple Watch before we take a test. Okay, so technology's been with us this whole time, and we can't have students lugging around their backpacks again. We can't have students using their little calculator here. We can't have students working off the mimeograph. It's changed, and technology has done some really good things. But I want to point out some of our generational differences in technology that impact us in our classrooms, in our homes. Hopefully you guys can hear this. Let's hear it for Gen X. The hipsters. I don't know if they use all these platforms anymore. They do share nonstop. So this video, it's a little older, believe it or not. We have another generation coming up, and some of you as parents might have not only the Gen Zers at home and maybe a few Ys, but we have Generation Alpha that we're now watching, and those are the students born after 2010. So it's going to get even more interesting as these generations go through schools and then into the workplace. So I just wanted to give you that little idea of technology and how it's changed just in our lifetimes. And here's something to think about. The computing power on your phone is 1,000 times more powerful. I'm not misspeaking, 1,000 times more powerful than the computers used on some Apollo missions to the moon. Just think about how far technology's come. This is more powerful than what NASA was using when I was born, just to date myself. All right, so at Bishop Moore, we have chosen the iPad. And the iPad is a genius machine. I'm a huge fan of the iPads. First and foremost, the mobility. You can take this everywhere. You can move around campus really quickly with your iPad, get to where you need to go. Student engagement. It hosts a lot of apps that students use for different classes. So it's keeping them engaged. Sometimes a little more engaged than we want them to be, but it keeps them engaged. And then of course it's one platform. Everything's here. Every teacher knows how to operate and use these in their classrooms. So we don't have mixed modalities coming into our classroom. So that's why the iPad. So what technology will your students need at Bishop Moore specifically? This is the million-dollar question. So iPad has just dropped a new operating system in the past year, iOS 14. iOS 14. So if you are using an iPad from that you already have in your house, just make sure it is iOS 14 compatible. And I've got a list of some of the iPads that I run into here with students in school, anything from the iPad Pros, we'll talk about that, to your iPad Airs, we'll talk about those a little bit, to your iPad, just your regular old iPads, the run-of-the-mill garden variety ones, which are the ones that we actually highly suggest. You don't have to go out and buy the big iPad Pro unless that's your thing. And we do suggest, and I will say this from parental experience as my child's moved through all 4 years here, is you want to buy as much storage in your iPad as you possibly can get. iPad, of course, the more storage that you buy, the more expensive it gets. And we realize that, but get as much bang for your buck as you can get. 128 gigs is preferable. And again, from parental experience, I didn't buy the most memory I could get, so I'm constantly fiddling with my son's iPad and taking things off and deleting things and putting things back on and upping the iCloud storage. It's a palaver. Don't want to do it. So get as much memory and storage as you can. That's my one thing. When it comes to size, I will say this. The iPad minis, if you have one, great. They work as long as they're iOS 14 compatible. But for the students I see that have had the minis in the past, I don't see much of them anymore. They're constantly zooming in because the real estate on the screen is so small. So I would definitely, again, recommend something with a 9.7, 10.2, I think is the screen for the iPad 7. iPad Airs, they just came out with beautiful new iPad Airs that I think are 10.5. Those are fine. Some students like the iPad Pro. The bigger, the better, for a variety of reasons. They don't want to have to zoom in. They want everything right there. So they go with a 12.9. So really, there's an iPad there that fits you. Just some things to consider when dealing with the mini and the zooming in part of it for your student. So that is what we recommend. 7th generation iPad with as much memory, preferably 128 gigs, so you don't have to keep fiddling and clearing things off. If you are using an iPad that you have now, please upgrade it to iOS 14, and clear off any old apps or things, maximize as much storage as you can get. All right. Some things we recommend here, and again, this is based on my experience as a parent and as a teacher here at Bishop Moore. I'm going to talk about first about the Bluetooth keyboard. If you do have the means, a Bluetooth keyboard is super helpful because when students, mine does not have a keyboard. So when I have to type on this, my keyboard comes up on this screen, which eats into my real estate. I like my screen real estate. So if I had a keyboard, I could be typing here and I could see the whole screen here. So something to consider, investing in a good keyboard that will last 4 years. Students and Apple Pencils. Apple Pencils are helpful, especially when I've seen, especially this year with the pandemic, teachers are asking students to write more on their screens for academic integrity reasons. So I've seen a lot of those. But you don't have to have one. Some students have a stylus. They use that also. I will say this, if you are purchasing or thinking about purchasing an Apple Pencil, please somehow mark it that it is your student so it's easily identifiable. The same thing with your iPad. 1,400 students at any one time. We could have 1,400 lost pencils, and they're all, guess what? White. So they're indistinguishable from each other. So that is my one thing that I have to tell you about Apple Pencils. If you're buying one, somehow mark it in the way that it's identifiable for your student to find when it makes its way to Lost and Found. All right, moving on. Some other things from parental experience and again, teacher experience. Protect your iPad with the best case that you can get. If you ever want to see Catholic prayer in practice, you will see it done very well. When a student has inadvertently dropped their iPad on the terrazzo floor here, please don't let the screen break. Please don't let the screen break. Lots of praying going on. As the class, we all breathe and pray together, and the student picks the iPad up from the floor, and it's not a cracked screen. Thank you, Jesus. Much appreciated. So protect your iPad. My son's iPad, I am grateful to say, made it through 4 years of who knows what he was doing with it. The case is all beat up. I should have brought it today. The case is all beat up, peeled away, but that iPad is still pristine. Thank you. So please protect your iPad for 4 years of use. Definitely do that. You can also invest in AppleCare. I did not. I invested more in the screen protector and the screen case, but that was just me. That's a personal choice. It comes down to knowing you and your child. And if your child's like my child, he's a bit of a klutz. So I went for the case, and it proved the right decision for us and my child. Okay. So apps at Bishop Moore. The general basic set of apps is going to be the ones that you see on the screen. So we do use GSuite for education, and students will be accessing it through their BMCHS email address. And so we do want your student to have at a minimum Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Calendar. I will say Google has proved its worth during the pandemic and hybrid teaching this past year, because students could start a document in class, and then perhaps they were quarantined, then they were sent home, and they could work on it at home and collaborate with friends. So I do give Google a lot of credit for thinking of the collaborative ways our students can work when they're not next to each other, and teachers liked it too. The other app that is used pretty much across every class here at Bishop Moore is the Notability app. Unlike the Google apps, which are free, I think Notability, I think it's $10 now. It's been a while since I purchased it, but it's not an expensive app. It's an inexpensive app, and students will use it pretty much in every class. Another app that's very helpful, and it is free, is Khan Academy. A great way to have your students start prepping for PSAT and SAT. So those are the apps. I do get questioned, especially from parents who have students who have been through Bishop Moore or currently in Bishop Moore. You'll see missing here the Schoology app. I don't recommend the Schoology app, and I'll tell you why. The Schoology app is like, you know, those weekender bags that you can only fit so much in. You can fit, you know, change of clothes, you can fit your toiletries in it, but you really can't fit your fancy ball dress in it, your cute shoes, your tie, whatever you got going on, your golf clubs. So its functionality is limited, like a weekend bag. And if students are only using the Schoology app instead of the Schoology website, they miss a lot of the features and functionality that Schoology brings. And I'm going to point out some of those things to you as we move on. Yeah, so Schoology app, you'll hear some kids like, we need it. I mean, they can have it. They're not going to get in trouble, but it's just not functional. It's like a weekender bag. Last thing, BMCH policy, BMC policy. Please download your apps at home. Do not download them. Well, you won't be able to download them while you're here on our network. So it's just for security. And just a little tip, please do not have a VPN, virtual private network, that circumvents our network and filters that we use to keep students off of websites that aren't really Catholic centered, shall we say. All right, so what is Schoology? You heard me talk about Schoology. So coming from the schools that you are coming from, you probably had some sort of online classroom, especially this past year. And Schoology is our online classroom. It's an LMS, a learning management system. And it's where the students go to class, essentially. They're in class, but they'll also use Schoology. It's like your virtual classroom. So when a student logs into Schoology on the website, not the They'll come to their homepage, and on this homepage, you can see full functionality. They can see the recent activity, the updates from the different clubs, from the different teachers, from Father Anthony. He's a big Schoology fan. Then you can see they can go at the top to their courses or their classes. So they can go from one class to the next class to the next class. Then you can see the different groups that they're in, and clubs here at Bishop Moore, they will use the Schoology groups to communicate what's going on, like Las Avispas, the Spanish Club, National English Honor Society. They all have their clubs, so they communicate through Schoology. And then you also have the envelope. Schoology has an internal messaging system, which has been very helpful during the pandemic, where students can ask questions really quick during class. It's like a back channel. And then it says overdue. Full disclosure, this was my child's screenshot. And it will let you know as a student and as a parent when students might have some overdue work or when they have some upcoming work. And that's actually in the next slide. So we go from essentially walking through the front door of school to the landing page for all classes for your student to an actual course page. And this is Dr. Roars from religion class. And you can see here, he's got a nice little picture from Notre Dame, letting the church, not the school, letting students know this is religion, and he's got his course materials, his lesson plans, all the information is there, and you can see upcoming. So Schoology is one way we use technology to communicate with our students. And especially Schoology has been incredibly useful and helpful this year as we've had students move in and out of classes on campus to virtual because of the pandemic. It's been easy for them to catch up and stay on track. All right, so as a parent, you will have access to Schoology. You'll be able to log in and see your students' classes and see what's going on. So if you do have that little Pookie, like my child, who says, no, I don't have any homework tonight, I can go out. And you're like, let me see your Schoology. There you go. You can see that they have that 5-page paper due for English. Yeah. Again, parent experience. So those will be coming to you. Some other ways we communicate using technology, and some of these are familiar to you and some of them are not. The first one is Fax RenWeb, and you're probably wondering, why is it Fax RenWeb? Long story short, it's the same company, but 2 different divisions joined. That's all I'll say. So you see Fax and RenWeb. Fax and RenWeb is like the front office where all the student records are kept. So if you're a student or a parent and you want to check grades, you want to come to Fax RenWeb. Don't go to Schoology, Fax RenWeb. It's also called the parent portal, if I remember correctly. And so Schoology is also, or I'm sorry, Fax RenWeb is where you'll see parent forms to sign, some different forms that come up from year to year. It's where you see the calendar. It's just a host of information that is on Fax RenWeb. So that's another way we communicate. So you've got Schoology, which is the classroom, Fax RenWeb, which is like the front office. And then of course you have email, that classic. We can't get away from it. Students are given a BMCHS email address. Learn it, live it, know it, because this is their email account that we like them to use to access things like their Google Drive, their Schoology, and their Fax RenWeb. And just a note, parents, we do ask that if a student emails us, that they copy you on that email if they're using the Gmail. All right. So, Bishop Moore, how do we use the Google Suite? And I touched upon that a little bit previously about collaboration and working with students. And what is Apple Classroom? If you know what Apple Classroom is, give a shout out in the chat. I think it's the best thing still since sliced bread. That's just me though. All right, so GSuite. As a teacher, when I am working with students in the classroom, I love my GSuite. For example, I'm using, or I have in the past, I've used Google Sheets for when I'm wanting to compare, and history teacher, by the way, when I'm wanting to compare death tolls and causes of death from World War I to World War II, simple data, pulling it up, compare and contrast, quick, easy, put it in a table. Teaching your students some basic math skills. by using in world history, go figure. Then also things and apps that I use when I'm having students prepare a group presentation, because we as adults have to do that. Hey Dave, hey Michelle, doing a group presentation now. I share with them my Google slideshow so they could proof it and put some things in. So it's a great collaborative tool. I'm a fan of Google on that point. The other thing, Google Calendar, students need time management skills. Don't overlook that one also, where they can go and prep when things are due and when perhaps they're going to be out of school due to some event for the family. So start using the Google Calendar to help prepare them for time management skills. All right, and then Apple Classroom. So Apple Classroom, best kept secret. Did you know that if you are within 30 feet of your child at home and you have an iPad and they have an iPad, you can track what they're doing on their iPad? Just saying. If you want directions, you can email me. I'll send them to you. So Apple Classroom is a great tool for teachers, not only to make sure our students are on track in the classroom and they're not playing, what was it, Flappy Golf, Angry Birds, whatever they were, I'm dating myself. But also it's helpful for teachers if you have a student who perhaps answered a math question or a chemistry equation correctly and you want to put it up on the screen for all other students to see what's going on. You can do it in like 2 clicks. Boom, it's right in front of the class. So I'm a big fan of Apple Classroom, just giving a shout out. All right, so what about ebooks? No more running to the lockers between classes. No more carrying, I think, what, 15, 20 pounds of books on your back. It's all here. It's all here. So your students, their textbooks will be electronic, and we're going to be sending out more information over the summer. If I know for some AP classes, please do not ask me which ones, but I know for some AP classes, there are some hard reading texts that will need to be purchased, but I don't know which ones particularly. But look forward to getting more information from me about ebooks coming up this summer. All right, BMCHS email, the student email. Once your student gets it, write it down, save it to memory, commit it to memory. You are going to need it as students in so many ways if I've got any students on here. However, when it comes to setting up your iPad, because it is your iPad, parents and students, when you set up the Apple ID, use your personal email. Case in point, my child Paul, he is graduating this year. I set up his iPad 4 years ago with a personal email. If I had set it up using the BMCHS on the Apple ID, I'd still be tied, his iPad would still be tied to, I'd be reliant to make updates using his BMCHS email address. I don't want that. So that's one thing. iTunes, Apple ID, personal email address. Everything else, BMCHS email address. Before school starts, download your Google Suite. And again, we'll send all this information out. Notability app and Khan Academy app. Then talk with your child. Make your plan for 2 things: protecting the iPad. What are you going to do if it's damaged? Where are you going to go? Or unfortunately, students do forget the iPad and they'll leave it and they'll go off to lunch and it'll get placed and lost and found, and then we have a bit of a conundrum as to where's the iPad. What's the app? Find My Friend, Find My Phone, Find My iPad, right? You want to get that set up on here so you can find it on campus. I've done that a few times. Then always make sure when your student's coming to school, iPad is fully charged and ready to go. You might even want to buy one of those cute little battery packy things, because if your child's like my child, having an iPad at 50% charged is unacceptable. They always want it at 100%. I don't know. I drive around with a gas tank at 50%. It's all good, but I don't know. Okay, my compatriot, Mr. Julio Irizarry. is unable to make it this evening. But he does want you to know that there's hardware support available to you. So if you have questions about an iPad and some memory issues or some more hardware things, we do have support for you. I'm more on the software side, I will say. All right, Generation Z, that is the generation that you have in your household. And there's some mornings you probably wake up and scratch your head. Who is this child? So I just want to give you a little further background about how fabulous your students are and what makes them tick, especially with regards to technology. But before they do that, I want to remind you, a gentle reminder as parents, Gen X, all those photos of me with a bad hair day from the photo mat, you know what I'm talking about, taken with the Kodak with the little click light bulb, those are ripped up. Nobody will ever find those again. The mistakes of my past and your past, they're gone. Nobody can find them. However, for our generation and those selfies and everything, they live on forever and ever and ever. And that's a hard concept for our students to understand, that things that they did in their teens will show up for a job search in their 20s. So I caution my students constantly, do not put anything out there that you don't want seen. And I just remind you as parents, just to give you that idea also, be very cautious when using social media and posting things on social media. Again, I'll send out all this information. There's some great items in here. But let's talk about how fabulous your children are.
Generation Z. The kids have an attention span of 8 seconds. Is it possible to communicate anything in 8 seconds? Let's give it a try.
So who are we? Well, we're the kids born after 1995, born into a post-9/11 world. When the war on terror started, we were starting school.
We're younger than Google. First generation to have grown up with social media. We consume in 8-second bites. To us, 30 seconds is an eternity.
I don't think I would have been able to live without Google and the internet. We live more through devices than we do actual interaction.
A nightmare? Not if you know them.
Yeah, they're good.
Gen Y grew up in a time of plenty, but the uncertainty of the noughties changed all of that.
Gen Z is a new species. We're not called Tony or Shelley or Kevin. We're called Logan and Romeo and Malala.
We don't consume on 2 screens, we use 5. No text, highly visual. To everyone else, the way we function seems like so random, but to us, it's as natural as breathing.
We don't have a lot of faith in experts. We're not interested in the wisdom of the grey hairs. We just want to get it off Google or from our peers.
Some say we're fickle, but we do have our good points. We're highly connected, and we're not just tech savvy, it's in our genes, or should we say, our code.
We're collaborative, and we're more mature and more resourceful than Gen Y. At 18, Beth Riegel shared her first book online, and she landed a 3-book deal with Random House.
Wow.
If our idea of a career doesn't exist, we'll just create it in our bedrooms. 15-year-old Maya van Wagenveen bucked the old order, landing a film deal with DreamWorks after self-publishing her school memoirs.
It's a DIY culture. We're pretty entrepreneurial. 18-year-old Nick Delosio is our poster boy. He created the news app Sumly at 15 and just sold it to Yahoo for $30 million.
We witnessed our parents struggle in a crumbling job market, so we plan to make our skills pay off as soon as possible. At the ripe old age of 17, Lord won 2 Grammys, and now she's been hired to score the next Hunger Games.
If you think we sound shallow, don't be fooled. We want to make a real difference to the world. Teen activists like Taliban shooting victim Malala Yousafzai are reaching out to millions.
So just when you thought you got your head around Gen Y, Gen Z comes along and changes everything.
Yes, they
Every
do.
8 seconds. Take any longer, they turn into generation.
That is so true for teachers in the classroom today. There's a lot of challenges in keeping up with these students. And like I said at the start of this presentation, Gen Z is growing up. We're seeing our last bit of Gen Zs coming into high school, and Generation Alpha is on its way. So we're starting to study up and see what they're bringing us to school. I thank you all so very much for your time today. And I see we have some questions in the chat. You're more than welcome to stick around and listen in. I'll see if I got any more jokes left, or Dave or Michelle has any more jokes. I'll get to answering questions.
Yeah. First off, I want to say thank you, Beth. That was a fantastic, and it's a lot of information. One thing I want to point out and remind everybody, all this information is going to keep coming at you. You don't have to get it all tonight. All of it isn't like ready, isn't pertinent for today. Some of that will be pertinent as we go along. If you have questions, please type them in. Beth, what I'll do is go through and read them to you and have you answer them. And Michelle, if you could unmute, because I know some of these are ones that you would be probably the resource to answer. And I'm first off, I'm going to go to Michelle real quick and tell us how they're getting their student IDs, and how that all works.
The end of this month, I will be emailing everyone the student ID with the email, the school email, along with the temporary password. It will not be activated until after June 1st. So after June 1st, you can start downloading the apps and everything in your iPads and using that information. Okay.
And on that, so the first question I want to get answered real quick is about summer school. Somebody said, do they need their iPads for summer school?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
That's a yes. There we go. No ifs, ands, or buts. Need that iPad for summer school if your child is signed up for summer school. Okay. I did see when you mentioned that you didn't like, you didn't recommend the Schoology app. Someone jumped in real quick because they're like, oh no, Schoology. And I'm like, oh no, it's coming. I'm sorry. we're locked in. On the other question, I kind of again is why not an Android? And maybe Beth can speak to that. But we went iPad exclusive about 10 years ago. That was the platform when that was best for an education platform at that time. We've been on it for 10 years. Everything, all of our infrastructure and most schools are iPad based. So that's kind of what it is. We will, I'm not gonna say we would never, but yeah, there is that is just not a discussion anymore. We chose iPad years ago and Apple, and that's just where we're heading. So for those of you Android, we want you to hang on to that. I know there's some great things there, but for our purposes in education at Bishop Moore, it will be Apple based, and it will be the iPad. Okay. Did I answer that right, Beth, or is there another more technical reason maybe that we're doing
Nope.
iPad?
Perfect.
Oh, perfect. Good.
I have two questions here that I just saw. Okay. Hope is no longer open. They are now on a waiting list, and it doesn't look like it's going to be any more space. So yes, that's full. And also for orientation, incoming freshmen is going to be August 6th, and the transfers are August 4th. And I will send that information out sometime in July.
And Vanessa, yes, that was a yes to needing the iPad for Hope. What I want to go back to here was, does the school have an agreement with Apple for a student discount? The answer to that, I believe, is no. But are there any recommendations, Beth, on when and how or what to buy? I always say, make sure you tie it into a birthday, a Christmas, or something you're doing, you'd be doing a gift anyway for. But if you're buying one, I don't believe we have an exclusive agreement with anyone. Just watch those specials and deals out there for those. The August 6th orientation is for the students, so it does not include a campus tour for the parents. The idea for us is to get you kind of to meet each other, see each other in the gym, kind of meet our staff and kind of get that marching orders, but that's a quick hour. The reality of that was that's how that we utilize that to break away parent from student. The student, you will come back at the end of the day for an all-school mass or a freshman class mass with your students. And you're welcome to walk the tour, but there won't be official tours. You can be on campus any day as long as the campus is open. Someone asked about that, when you're allowed on campus. Anytime once school is out, which would be June 7th, starting June 7th, if you want to drive on a campus and walk around or something, if you let us know, or you want to schedule a tour prior to that, just because you haven't seen it, please contact Ms. Vasquez. We'll do the best we can throughout the rest of this year, school year, in the summer, to make sure you can kind of get around. So the campus is open and you can come to it. There is a question here. Beth, can you quickly recap Apple Classroom, and are there Wi-Fi limitations for the monitoring tools?
All right, so Apple Classroom. Apple Classroom is essentially an app that teachers put on their iPads or parents put on your iPad, and you will electronically be able to watch what your student or your child is doing on their iPad, as long as you're within 30 feet roughly of each other. Any further than that, because it's Bluetooth enabled, it doesn't work. So it's a tool typically to be used in the classroom or at home. And then what was the second question, Dave?
Limitations with the monitoring tools? Are there Wi-Fi limitations for the monitoring tools?
Are there Wi-Fi? For Apple Classroom, it's not Wi-Fi based, it's Bluetooth based. So, because I have students ask me all the time, they're like, well, can you spy on me at home? No, I can't. The second you leave my classroom, two things happen. Number one, I cancel class because I'm moving on to the next one. And number two, the bond actually breaks once you're 30 feet away from me, or conversely in the room next to me and there's a concrete wall between us, like the one behind me.
Does anybody else get the feeling that Miss Miller was missed her calling as an FBI or CIA person, right?
Teacher,
I'm getting a little nervous here. I didn't realize. I don't believe I'll be within 30 feet of you ever again, but that's just the way that'll be.
I like to put students, at ease. I want them to know it's a tool that's used judiciously and fairly, because I don't want to see their cute kitty videos while they're at lunch. I just don't.
Okay. Orientation for freshmen, incoming freshmen. If they are 8th grade going into 9th grade, that orientation will be on August 6th, Friday. If they are an upperclassman, a transfer student, a 10th or 11th or 12th grader coming in for the first time, theirs is on the 4th, which will be on Wednesday. You will get more information in emails. I just kind of wanted you to mark that date on a calendar before maybe you pick up a vacation somewhere or something, or we're making plans that were adjustable. However, it's not it's not an end all if you don't make it. It's just a great day to be there if they need to be there. Uniforms, no, they'll get instructions on what they need to wear to orientation. Ms. Vasquez will send that all out to you on appropriate attire. It's just going to be kind of like what our dress down is, appropriate jeans, shoes, appropriate shirt. They're going to get a shirt that day. But no, it won't be a uniform in that. Okay, someone offered some information in the chat. If you search for the Apple Store for Education, you can buy an iPad at a discount. And that, will masks be required? Right now, we're supposed to open without COVID protocols, but that's ever changing. But that's a decision that'll be made by, and that will be a diocesan decision by, mind you, that will be handed down from the diocese on what are requirements for masks. At this time, my understanding is that is the goal. The idea is that we will not be requiring them. However, that can change. Okay. All of that. Someone asked, is there going to be at-home learning next year, Beth?
At this time, no. At this time, because the state is not requiring it like they did last year. So there is no at-home learning that I'm aware of at this time on Monday, May 12th. There you go. That can change.
All right. Perfect. Is there a brand of shoes for the boys? The answer there is no. The shoes need to be all black. And when I say all black, the all is a word to understand, because some people in the past have interpreted all, but this little bit of white here, and it's like, no, none.
Black.
But the catch here is they can have any black shoe, but on dress up days, which is mass, or if there's a special presentation, which will be once or twice a month, we are going to want them in a dress, all black dress shoe. They have an athletic shoe for regular days, but they do have to have a dress shoe for that. But we do not require any specific brands. Athletic tryouts. I'm glad you asked that too, because that's going to be next week's presentation on a week from today at 6 o'clock. I'll be back with the athletic department, and they will be there to handle giving you all that information you need to know for summer workouts, for tryouts, for camps, because I believe camps are back online as well. Yes. All right. All right, let's go through there. Did you mention that parents are to be there the first hour? Oh, so the first hour of orientation, parents are not required to be at orientation. If you are dropping your student off, we have found, I've been doing this quite a while, that at some point I needed to separate child and parent. So I created a small parent orientation in the gym for an hour if you're available. It usually goes from 8 to 9, 9:30. If you're not available, the important thing is that your student is there for orientation. And then we bring the parents back at the end of the day around 3 o'clock. We present the freshman class to you as a class at mass. It's kind of cool. You get to kind of finally, before we start school, feel and see them as Bishop Moore Catholic High School students and you as a community. So I would encourage if you can, but definitely not required. Clothes for, I'm not sure, Ms. Vasquez, do you know what they need to wear for Hope and the first day of Hope?
It's the gym shorts with the gray t-shirt. The store is Reese Brothers. And I will be sending out the uniform information on Monday, the 24th. I just want to confirm the times and everything with Reese and make sure with the principal that the uniforms are all staying the way they're supposed, the same and everything, no changes before I send all that out. But you can definitely go to Reese Brothers and get the uniform for Hope. Like I said, it's the black shorts with the Bishop Moore emblem and the gray t-shirt.
And Reese Brothers knows exactly what they need. Just to go and say they're taking Hope. I need the PE uniforms on that.
For Bishop Moore.
And Laura, it sounds like you got some information. I'll be reaching out to you because it sounds like you might be getting some information ahead of me. So very good. But we'll let you know as soon as we are informed to send that out, right? Everything goes through a process. You can send all that from regarding your, yes, we're going to do that. Hi there. Do the books ever change? Do they change every year, Beth?
Ooh, great question. When it comes to books, they have been known, yes, to change. When I taught world history, I went through 2 different world history texts, finding the one I liked over the course of 4 years. So they do change. Okay. I hope I answered that question correctly.
Yep, it's all going to depend on the class, the courses they have, and where all that is. It's kind of still a industry, and the industry kind of controls what's available.
Now, I will say this, I don't change mid-year. So maybe that's what the parents is asking. I don't change mid-year. No teacher changes.
No changes.
Mid-year, no, that doesn't happen. Once we commit to that textbook, it's for the whole year.
Yes, that's Reese Brothers off Candace and Maitland. Yes, it is, right there by the little 500. All right. Girls' shoes. The girls, same rules as the boys. All black, no specific brand. You will find out that most girls do decide that the Mary Jane is what they prefer. Not required. That is sold at Reese Brothers. I will tell you this, on a shoe like the Mary Jane, that it lasts forever. So that's a lot of the reason I think some of them do it. But don't feel obligated, okay? Okay, they got to be ordered off the line. It is not selling them anymore. Okay, thank you for that update. But the Doc Martens are big. Run big for big that. Okay, but any dress shoe for boys, any dress shoe, as long as, again, our requirement, it's all black. That's it. And that. Okay, I'm looking here. Did I miss anything? There will always be opportunities for more questions. So if you forget or something pops up, don't think that you can't ask it. I think Ms. Miller offered to have you talk to her directly. You certainly can reach out to Ms. Vasquez or the appropriate people on that. Can they use a MacBook Air instead of an iPad? No, they cannot. It must be an iPad. The other thing I did want to go ahead.
Somebody asked about school supplies. So for individual classes, teachers will let you know what school supplies they might need. Typically that first week of school.
It's a little bit different than middle school, where they ask you for, supplies for the whole class, like tissues, and we don't do that. So each class will have their own list of what they're going to need from your student. And you'll get that the first week of school.
All right, I'm looking here. I got to move things around. I got so many things I'm controlling it. If you think of those questions, ask. Also, our website is a great place to go get information, to find things out, to look at things, to find requirements. The other thing I'm going to tell you is there is an athletic website that stands alone, right? That you can access it from our website, but make sure if you're interested in athletics in any way, shape, and form, you're following that website. I'm really going to start speaking right now to those interested in cheerleading or dance or things that are going to try out early June, right? So like the first couple weeks of June, you need to be aware of that. Nothing else does. I think that's just cheerleading and dance, but there are summer workouts for all fall sports. There's summer workouts that are open through, I think, Orlando Sports Medicine. Things are available during that time. The ebooks are not included in tuition. You will get that over the summer on what that needs to be. So just a heads up, they are not. Make sure you budget for that. For things like drama and those, that information will come out as when that starts, but that will, I don't believe, begin until next school year. But if you have a unique situation or a unique question that pertains to you, send it to us, email it to us. We will take care of it, I promise. And if you think of something between here and next week, I'm here next week. Join me again. And we will post this on our website. We did record it. I started a little late. All you really miss is the wonderful introduction from myself. But if you want to come back and reference it and watch this again, you can, or recommend it to others. We will also put that PowerPoint up independently. And you can access it there. I would say that iPad information, if you go through and get to that screen, maybe take a picture with your camera or a screenshot. So if you're out looking, you got that information. Okay. Hope starts on June 8th. Fantastic. You will get that information soon. First off, I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us. We are so excited for the class, I believe, class of 2025. That doesn't even sound right? I tell you, oh my goodness, I was going to be an old man in the year 2000. This is killing me. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great night. I want to say special thanks to Ms. Vasquez, but especially Beth Miller for doing this for us. Thank you so much. Thank you again. Once again, the last question that popped up again, we answered earlier, but we'll do it again. Textbooks are not included in tuition. All right. Thank you so much. We will be in touch. God bless.
Bye.